Hello everyone, it's Ruby here, and today we are back with another week of Drummer Queens podcast. This time is 710. This is the episode where we learn about Brooke's fertility problems, and we see Millie very spiral. And we see a lot happens this episode. So let's just get into it, and we're gonna watch this on 2x speed so that we can plow through
We're
it.
all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion Mitchell, tough girl, you can sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.
There we go.
Okay, season 7, episode 10. You are a runner, and I am my father's son. Air date November 16th, 2009. Hey, drama queens, you have me and Mr. Robert Buckley and Mr.
Dan Scott.
Paul Johansson, who directed this episode. Say hello to your fans, Paul.
Hello to my fans and not hello to the other people.
Well played. Well played. Let's set the tone at petty and just run with it.
I'm feeling a little Dan Scottish.
So no Sophia today.
Paul, will you read the synopsis for us?
Nathan reaches the breaking point with Clay, causing a rift between Haley and Quinn. Quinn is played by,
Chantal Van Stanton.
right? Remember that. And let's see, Brooke comes clean to Julian about her worries regarding his growing connection to Alex.
You're always just ordering on purpose. Always.
Meanwhile, Skills, wonder how he got that name, pursues a new career in Los Angeles, California on the West Coast, and Millicent's drug problems worsen. We saw that coming.
Boy, oh boy, did we ever. Directed by the incomparable
Oh, yeah.
Paul Johansson.
Paul Elizabeth Johansson. Old PEJ.
Paul Johansson.
Oh, no.
I'm so glad you could be here for this episode, Paul, because especially after watching it, it's just a perfect one. Because this was also really the first time you and I ever interacted.
This is the first
Yeah,
time?
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
as characters, also pretty much as human
drowned.
I wanted to be your friend, but you really were not interested, so I was unable to work with you.
I was capped off at friends who were a little older than me, and so I just you got waitlisted, but you made it eventually. You got there.
We got-
You also drowned me on our first day of work, so like don't make it sound like you came in being charming and sweet. Okay? Do you remember that scene? Do you remember shooting it?
I remember everything about that scene. I remember how they were more concerned about the cameras than they were about you and I getting swept away into the
Yeah.
ocean. It wasn't calm. It was a bit wavy, and but like the crew was fantastic. They were awesome. They were really cool. But the water was always nice, right? Water wasn't that. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was actually fun day to get on the waves and kind of like blow as much time there as you could before you had to go back in the studio.
And it was funny because I remember you saying you had your wrist was really bothering you at the time, and you said, "Hey, Fly, my wrist is really bothering me." And I said, "Oh, absolutely, yeah, no worries. I'll be off if you ginger it." And I realized the only thing I had to hold on to was your wrist. So it was this game of me balancing getting drowned and also being so delicate with one of your wrists.
So wasn't I was grabbing you here, right?
Yes, but I was grabbing your
And
wrist.
you're grabbing onto it, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I was worried about choking you. Were worried about hurting you too.
Those seem like hard scenes to shoot when you're pretending to drown someone in the ocean. It's not even a controlled environment like if you're on a soundstage with a tub or something. Like that seems really difficult.
Except the thing is with him was I didn't. It would look bad. I think if he just kind of made himself fall into the water. So I do remember being a little bit kind of like I'm a bit playful, but I remember kind of like sweeping his feet one time until he would splash.
I didn't remember that. I
swept your feet one time.
I think it's a
Get-
great
get
choice.
on there.
I wonder how I felt about it because I was
Yeah.
curious about Paul coming into this. Like I said, we hadn't really had any off-camera time together.
Were you
My
scared?
first
I would say it was a
interaction
mix
is
of there was probably
Dan
an
trying to
element,
kill him,
an element of
basically.
intimidation because you had been there a while and you're also you're lovable
just
but you're
crazy.
dickish. And so I didn't know how to read that at first. Like I didn't know if it was of course back then I was
it's
taking everything
so
personally.
on
So it was,
character.
does he not like me? Is this just the way he riffs? So it wasn't until the second time you directed an episode that I really had a moment where I realized, oh, you as a director, you gave me a really good note, and I just remember thinking, oh, like he has a lot to say and to teach me. Okay, this guy can be a teacher. Like this is okay. It was great. It was really helpful.
This
But yeah,
guy
in
had
the early
to
days, I was very much like,
listen
don't know.
I do want to comment on that idea because I think Joyce brought it up, and I think some of the other actors have too. And it's the on-set way for me not to get Snidely Whiplash bad guy mode head when I'm just being bad in the character is to make it fun for me to be bad. And I know you
Yeah.
understand that because you do it too. When you're in the
You're
work and you
not
have to
like
do things that are
maniacal.
outside of your. I'm Canadian, so I apologize for everything all the
At
time.
least not.
So
not
in order to get away
really
from
like
that as an actor, because it's
Dan
really not
doesn't
serving me as
see
an actor to constantly
himself
apologize
as a
when playing a
villain,
character that doesn't even know what word apology means. It's
More
I try to make it
so
playful for me,
just
so that
a guy.
when you say that, I don't know if you said dickish or whatever it was, that is true, but that's a way of tapping into a way in my brain for me to make the character kind of more have a twinkle in my eye as I do the stuff like that I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, every character has to be approached differently. And when you play a character like that for so many years, on and on and on, yeah, there's got to be ways to sort of
Yeah,
figure
you
out how
gotta
do I stay
freshen
in the
it
zone,
up.
but also not just
Change it
fall
up
into
a
misery
little.
about like living in the life of the brain of this character. Yeah.
But it's also for you guys too on the set and for the crew. The other people have to be around, like a Dan Scott kind of character to when you're walking around and you're kind of being a little bit playful in between scenes, so that because that energy, as I said in many other podcasts, especially with you, Joe, I think I've said before, is it's kind of can be misconstrued as. I mean, I am kind of super. I love to test boundaries sometimes. I like to see.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to know who they are. I do enjoy that process.
Yeah.
But the truth is, and this is I'm gonna get Robert's gonna like laugh and just his pink fur or yellow fur coats out there like ripped to pieces because he's not gonna believe this. I'm actually super shy. I really am. And so all of that is like a Jim Carrey kind of way of making me not have to be me in order to be able to play the part. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's intrinsic to a lot of artists. And the idea of pushing boundaries. And, I mean, I think so many artists are like that. We try and figure out what the boundaries are so that we know how to play. We know how far we can go.
Yeah, you're always testing a fence. Do you remember Jurassic Park? That the metaphor I'm making when they say, "What's wrong with the fence?" And they say, "Oh, the velociraptors are constantly testing a fence, looking for a weakness." It's like, yeah, always testing. And by the way, when I say dickish, I don't mean mean. You just like you freely give shit. And I was a new kid, in school, and so I was just and I was just constantly like, what's the read? Does this person like me, not like me? What did he do? And so it was like, it just took me a while to figure you. It took me longer to figure you out. And also, we only had work where we were antagonists. Like we never like with Joey and I, like, we had loving scenes, which also gave us more time to talk and to be warm. It was like, I saw you for a scene, you drowned me. I saw you for a scene, I told you to fuck off. It was like they gave us no opportunities for like sweet bonding.
Yeah, that was a surprise on the beach when you looked up and you're like, sorry. And you just keep moving. Clay's
So
like,
good.
I'm not gonna acknowledge you.
You guys ever read what the fans were saying about that move on the beach?
No.
No.
You never read all this stuff they were writing?
No.
It built sympathy for you. It built huge, like it built a really good kind of like people were seeing a side where, because you're usually like totally in charge, and then somebody's coming in and going, yeah, how's water taste? And boom, boom. So it's kind of, it started building people to understand a little more sympathetic towards your character, I thought.
But here, my question is, did this? I mean, I guess we'll bounce around a little bit. But since we're talking about this, and Clay has gotten fired from being Nathan's agent, he's also been fired now in front of Nathan and Haley and his other bosses from his agency.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I understood the purpose of this moment in the story of Dan drowning Clay, or Bo drowning Clay, and being like, your new life starts today. And I mean, I get that's Dan's shtick right now, but Clay at the end then goes and gives a speech to Nathan, and he's apologizing. And wouldn't he have done that anyway? Like, did it really accomplish anything different for Clay being drowned?
I had the opposite experience of you. It made complete sense to me.
Okay, tell me.
Well, Dan is still looking out for his son, even though he wants nothing to do with him. He used a talk show to get rid of the Renee problem. He found out Clay misstepped, and he checked Clay real hard. And what was interesting about that scene was there was scary Dan, but then as Clay's like, you're a lunatic, walking away, Dan hits him with some serious life coaching.
Yeah.
And he tells him, like, you want to be an agent, go be an agent. So it wasn't malice. It was a wake-up call. It was done in a very Dan Scott way.
Yeah. But did it work? Like, was Clay mopey enough
I feel
to
like
quit?
it might have.
I don't know about that, because
A little
Clay makes a
bit.
point of saying, I made a promise to my dead wife that I'm never going to quit. But you can't argue that, like, it shook him up. It got his attention, and it certainly didn't take away any fire under his butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So to me, while it was wildly aggressive and unexpected, like it
Dan
kind of
Scott.
fit perfectly for me in Dan Scott's trajectory.
Paul, how did you direct something like that when you have to be in it? How do you know that you're getting the material that you want? And you're getting the shots that you want?
You have to buy into it. You have to buy into what the writers are leading you to, because if you have any reservations about shooting it and I'm gonna try to I don't know what it is take the.
I was looking for her, and I didn't.
Oh my god.
And that's
I didn't mean
it
to
goes
do
back to what you were saying about the end.
They gave us no
Sorry.
opportunities for like sweet bonding.
Yeah, that was a surprise on the beach when you looked up and you're like, sorry. Bo drowning Clay and being like, your new life starts. And you're getting the shots that you want.
You have to buy into it. You have to buy into what the writers are leading you to, because if you have any
Sorry, I hit
reservations
a bad
about shooting
button.
I'm gonna try to I don't know what it is take the fangs out of the scene and just make it kind of like work for me in a way. A lot of times I think you're in this type of you have to know who your audience is, right?
Yeah.
In this type of scenario, I think you have to just fully buy into what they're attempting to do and give the velocity to it that exists. And I really didn't feel like I would be doing a good job with this scene if I was like to really play underplay it, or maybe not such a big thing. But I just went for it with all gusto, thinking, you know what,
Yeah,
guys
you
are
gotta
gonna love this.
commit to the bit.
A lot of things that we do in that show, you have to believe they're gonna buy. and they
Believe
have
in
to buy business.
the
And I do what I always do, which
process,
is
not
he
just that,
very
but
perfectly pointed out.
the
The justification for
process
Dan
of
side
it.
from Relation Actor was all about my son. It was all about what's going to be good for him in the long run, and getting this guy, on board in the right way is going to be good for the long run. Directing wise, I would say this: there's a lot of putting together. When we shoot with water or animals, it's going to be logistically a nightmare. You're going to be there all day. So I just wanted to make it simple, but I wanted to make it look like I put in the right amount of understanding. I didn't want to do too many underwater things or crazy shots. Just get the shots and let's get on to the next scene. Don't overdo it. It didn't seem like a really big thing, other than I know that the cameras be waterproof, so I wanted to be at the beach for a shot before that, so that they could have time to set up the second camera to go to the water. So we weren't just waiting around. So I did a scene before I did that scene, so they'd be able to set up the water rig. So when we finished, we could go right to it and not have to wait around.
You always were very efficient with your time management as a director. That is true.
You popped on your producer hat and got real efficient with your setups.
I put the Drama Queens audience to sleep. That was more about the personality.
It killed with Joy and I. Our audience may have tuned out, but Joy and I were hanging on every word.
They're a sophisticated audience. This is what's so great about this audience. They're just, they're curious. And my favorite people are curious people. I love that about art. They want to know everything.
While we're talking about Dan, because I have a question about this. So in this episode, Rachel goes with Dan back to Tree Hill, and she's standing in the high school hallway. She asks Dan to meet her there and says, we should shoot an episode here in the hallway where you killed your brother. And Dan's response is so wide-eyed, and Rachel's being so obviously entitled and just has this general disdain for humanity that feels so palpable. Can you give us an insight into, it seems so Dan's so smart, he's so calculated. How does he not see that she's being so manipulative? Or does he see it and he's playing her too? Like, why between just the two of you would you have had this sort of doe-eyed response of like, oh yeah, oh gosh, that might be really, I don't know what the line was that you said, but your whole demeanor was very sincere and sort of doe-eyed, and Rachel was being so obviously villainous.
It was Rachel pitches the idea, and you take a beat, Paul, and then you say, a little insensitive, isn't it? And without skipping a beat, she says, not as insensitive as murdering your brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, first off, I do sometimes like to give credit for a lot of our writing team really sometimes would give us some very interesting things to deal with. And I thought that was a pretty interesting choice. I always play Dan. The one secret I always played with Dan was he's in the know. Dan's never not in the know. So the fact that I'm aware of what she's doing, exploiting a terrible school shooting, and a huge issue that I have.
He's aware that doing this is not...
as a human being to play the part that would do that, and then seeing, well, look, if you point out ugly things to the world, then people can see that there's broken people in the world that do terrible things, and as opposed to being unaware, or we have to be sophisticated in our approach to horrific inhumanities on our planet, and pretending them away in television does nobody a good job, a good service. So I was okay with my character pulling that off. I didn't anticipate it being such a profound thing, and actually saving the show from being canceled, from what I understand.
The shootings, yeah.
But so now when we're talking about exploiting that, As a person, my first thought was, ooh, this is going to be touchy. How am I going to do this? And then I thought about it from the character's point of view. And he, I don't think Dan has the same motivation as her in the end. In a weird way, they're both using each other. She's using me, money, fame, glory.
So Dan knows. Dan's fully aware.
100%.
Dan,
And so,
of
but there's
course
an agreement. I also
does,
like the Rachel Dan marriage. They sat down and negotiated. They didn't fall in love.
Oh, I love that.
I always felt that.
Yeah.
So part of the negotiation wasn't that I was exploiting my brother's killing situation, and that this is not in the contract. And I feel like that's the way that I dealt with it in my head. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And can I say, as a viewer, I liked it because this season has done a good job of blurring the line on whether Dan has changed or he's still the same guy with a great hustle. And I like this line because it was a moment to me where I couldn't figure out whether I was getting a peek behind the curtain at who he's becoming, or if it's just a great long con hustle.
I think we have to play that line, that balance, stay on that line. If I ever commit to either side of that line, which was part of my conversation with the creatives, was that I can't truly show that either this is all a big act or that I've actually converted. I have to balance the line as often as I can, as close as I can, to not letting the audience know which side of that line I'm on, so that it creates a more compelling, dramatic.
Yeah, and then you don't
It really works. I mean, it's why he's one of the great villains of television.
It's a big mystery.
You guys have all these incredible interactions with each other, and you're all the same age, and you're all, you're having kids and falling in love, and you're doing this and all these things. And I get this character that kind of gets all these incredible nuanced things that have to be, kind of rewarded. So I really, that's why I was so grateful to be able to play the part.
It's fun to watch. I mean, it's really fun to sit and try and figure out, what am I watching? Like, what am I seeing? Is this a person who is, like you said, Rob, has he changed, or has he? Is this a long game? Is this a long game hustle? And I'm really enjoying the interaction between Dan and Rachel. That is the biggest surprise of this whole season. I never knew I needed in my life, but because when the show was airing, I wasn't watching it at the time. By then, I was in my own world and just going to work and doing my job. So to come now and watch it, it's so satisfying.
And let's give her some credit, Danielle some credit, because I really love actually working with people that roll with my insanity. So when I'm in a scene as Dan and I can't always tell you where it's going, she's always like one step with me. She's never not picking up on what I'm doing. She's like, oh, that's what we're doing, then let's do it. She's so game as an actress that it made it super fun and super sort of fresh. Every scene was so fresh because she knows her stuff. She's fully
always prepared.
You wake up and go to the set, read through the lines. She's off book like that, the way that I like to work, and ready to roll, man. And I love that about her. And it made that playing that character in that season so much more fun.
Well, you guys shine. I mean, I take notes obviously for this.
I mean, there's no mystery as to why Danielle asked to work with
so compelling.
Paul.
Dan is quickly. It's funny because when we started doing conventions, I had a little backstory. I don't know the show. When I signed on, I binged 5 and 6, but I've never seen 1 through 4. So when this podcast opportunity came around, I've said I'm basically approaching this as a first time viewer. Because when the show ended, I was like, great, done, never going back. So I am now watching this basically as a first time viewer. And so when we were doing conventions, I would see so many people loving your character. All I knew was sort of the big broad strokes. I think that's so interesting. And I gotta say, now that I'm actually watching as a viewer, I totally get it. Because even though you've done some bad things, I'm like, but I'm interested. When he's on the screen, my eyes go to him. I want to know what he's up to. I'm on for the ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kill it, man. And Danielle does as well. You two together are so much fun to watch.
Well, I mean, I think Nathan and Haley have a really good, one of my favorite dynamics. And for me, working with Joy, I think that's how we became friends, was because we just had such a good professional, chemistry for characters. It was so interesting to watch Dan and Haley scenes. And I was Dan and him, not Haley and Dan.
Yeah, we did. We had a lot of fun. It was easy. I mean, talk about just rolling with it. Like I think we recognize that in each other, and that's always a fun thing to encounter in an actor.
Who did you have chemistry with, Robert? Like, who did you feel your character had the best chemistry with? Like,
I mean, I would say by virtue of our relationship, I mean, Chantel and I, because we went into it sort of we got thrown into a foxhole together. We were the only 2 new people, and we had most of our stuff together. So we bonded real quick, and then we just developed kind of a nice shorthand, and it made the work very easy, very natural. I really enjoyed working with James.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you two were so easy to watch on camera.
It worked, and it's funny because James, I have a couple friends in my life who, for some reason, when I get around them, it's like catnip. I can't help but just.
Yeah.
Just want to make them laugh, and I'm like hyper. And James is one of the, I think, because he's pretty quiet, still.
Yeah.
Stoic. And it brings out like my inner kid, and I'm like, let's laugh together. So
you just like want to poke him, like, hey,
100%.
laugh, hey.
Yeah. I was always trying to make him laugh and do the outrageous. So yeah.
Be a
He's
clown.
got a great sense of humor. He laughs really easily. He's so easy to be around.
Yes.
Well, if one person that each of you, and I'll answer this too, would have loved more scenes with?
Oh gosh. Well, Dan, I mean, you and I we would have had way more fun. I mean, it was so.
I think it'd be nice. I mean, I know we got some of it, but I think it'd be nice to have more scenes with Haley and Brooke, especially as the now 2 best friends. Kind of, I feel like there's some missed opportunities to not have the interaction. I also think that there were some missed opportunities to not have Haley and Quinn interact as much as I feel like they should as sisters. Obviously, I like the interactions between Quinn and Alex, and then also Alex and Julian, and Alex and Brooke, and Alex and Millie. I think there are some people it's harder to get scenes with because it just doesn't make sense story-wise, that they're so set in their stories that it doesn't make sense to truly connect with. But yeah, I would say Haley and Brooke probably needed a couple more scenes, a little bit.
Few and far between when we actually did get to interact together.
What about you, Rob?
I found myself, it's funny because when we watched this episode, I didn't remember at all that you and I had a scene in the bar where I'm drinking and you're like, this isn't what I meant by get your life together, you know? And then you invite me to have a drink with you.
Yeah.
And so I didn't remember the scene at all. And I thought, I want to see this scene.
Yeah.
I want to see these two dudes sit down and talk. They've both got history. They have a
With
shaky
Nathan.
relationship. They've only met once, and it was during a drowning. Like, I want to see the scene. So I would have loved to have seen more of Clay and Dan. Although I will say, honorable mention, Victoria.
Oh yeah.
Dude, she's an assassin. I would love to watch the banter between Clay and Victoria.
I was just gonna say, if I had one character on the show, I would have liked to have more scenes with.
Oh
because
yeah.
it would have been.
Oh yeah,
definitely-
Paul.
They could have
Dan
created
and Victoria.
such an amazing storyline for the two of you for some reason to get into cahoots together about something. That would have been a ball to watch. Dan and Victoria have to try and one up each other, or try, negotiating something, or I don't know. Well, speaking of negotiating, and
Good segue, Joy.
yeah, I gotta say, there's some real bad agenting happening in this episode. I don't know. I mean, I get from Clay's perspective that he's like, holding out for the best. But Millie getting an agent and the agent asking for $500,000 for a post campaign, like she's already done it. She's already worked for free. I'm so confused.
Listen, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, probably. I can't stand this storyline.
Yeah.
Please, also, don't hear what I'm not saying. I love Lisa Goldstein,
Yeah.
and she did this role as well as you could have, as well as anyone could have. She did great,
Yeah.
but this is just such a heavy-handed after-school special cautionary tale, where they've even changed. It was sort of like I said the other week, like they etch-a-sketched her character, and were like, give us a cliche model trope, like. She's done one thing for Brooke. She has an agent asking for $500,000. She's already doing cocaine to keep up with it's been like 2 weeks, and she has completely hit rock bottom. Like, what the hell is that? It was so dumb. Also, come on, you don't leave coke out in the open on the mirror. You put it away, you save it because that's precious to you, you know? And like, you don't leave the dollar bill rolled up on the ground. So much. I was curious about how you felt about directing this, Dan, because I know it was all in the script.
Exactly the same as the water. You have to buy into it, and you have to put it all on display.
I mean, I think if they wanted to go there, I think the problem is that we just didn't have enough time with Millie to get there, because I think we at the very least we needed one scene where Millie is Millie and she goes to a party and she's like interacting with like McKenna, and they're talking about, oh, Millie, you need to lose some weight, you need to get on these things, and then blah blah blah, like, and then that pushing her to be like, oh, okay, well, I need to be like these guys because they're the cool kids, and if I want to do modeling, I need to be like this. Like, I think I think the problem is not so much the storyline, but more so the way that it was approached and how it developed. So I think if we had, like, in the beginning, especially maybe when Alex and Millie go off to do their thing, maybe there's one time where Alex brings Millie to like a modeling party, and Alex goes off, and she loses track of Millie, and Millie kind of gets wrapped up with McKenna and these other girls, and she starts to believe what they're telling her, and then that's where she kind of spirals and does this thing. I just think that it's really random because it's random because we never saw that progression. We just saw the aftermath of it. And I think that is the problem with it.
And you try to make it as real as you can and leave the judgment to the audience. You have to. You can't re-envision things that you may not be fully on board with, and then try to recreate the show for the creators. I think if it's a feature film, we sit down, we talk it through, we work it out, we cut what isn't essential, and we say, can we play this instead of show this? Is there a way we can play this as an artist, as an actor? Can the actress play this instead of indicate with all these little things around her? Can she be demanded as an actress to go inside and show us the turmoil she's going through, the depth of the pain, the frustration with these choices? Is she doing the right thing? All that stuff through her behavior, without it being, as you said, these cliche tropes. But I can't do that as a hired gun on a show that has asked me to facilitate their ideas. It's not a battle I want to take on, and it's not appropriate for me to do that. I took the job. So what I do is I go, okay, let's put everything they've asked for in here. Let's do our very, very best. Let's give them plenty of coverage so that they can cut around what isn't working. And let's just talk to your actors and say, do me one favor. Do not lie. Just tell the truth. If this isn't, don't touch it. If you don't know how to hold a rolled up, $100 bill to do your blow, don't touch it. Just do your scene as truthfully and honest as you can, and we'll make it look great for you. We're going to protect you. I don't want anybody faking it. So that's the only way that you can get through a scene like that. Does that make sense?
This is one of my favorite things about you as a director, because we worked with so many on the show, and I've worked with directors who feel awkward about the material, and they lean into
like one thing.
They lean more into their shots and more. They just kind of try and almost stay away from the material, like pretend like it's not there, and they focus more on the lighting and the shots. And it's like, well, just get through the scene and then we'll move on. And you always lean into it, which seems so counterintuitive, but actually, by pushing in and making it much more human and just about the human interaction that's happening between the people, then the sets don't matter, the lighting doesn't matter, the costumes don't matter, nothing else matters except the emotions that the two people in the scene, or however many, are feeling. And I will buy almost anything in that scenario. And I learned that from you. It's really such a valuable lesson as an artist. And that's what we see here in this scene.
I just want to thank you
What's
for
that audio?
giving me such a beautiful compliment. It means everything.
Absolutely. It's so true. And that's what we see in this scene. Ali did such a beautiful job. I was really, he was so still. He was so he was disturbed, not flustered. We're used to seeing Mouth be, I think flustered is a word I think of with him a lot. And to see him grounded in his place as a human and a friend and a fellow traveler in life in a really grounded way, and just watching this unfold with someone that he really loves. And he wasn't trying to fix it. He wasn't trying to solve it. He was just present. I don't know what kind of conversations you and Lee had on set, but that was beautiful work from him.
Well, he's Holden Caulfield to me on the series anyway. He's kind of always been that, that alter ego.
Yeah.
Somebody is an observer. Maybe he's journaling this whole thing in his head is the way that I always look at him.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
I love that. He's journaling and the whole show is in his head.
Yeah, I always thought of him like that. Yeah.
Wow.
The whole show is
You
in his
just
head.
exploded my brain.
we were lost before lost was lost, guys. Let me ask a quick question, Joy, because I'm aware that I'm coming at this with a limited scope of the characters and their histories, but because you've spent more time with Millie, when you are watching this particular story arc, do you see any of Millie in it?
I was looking for her, and I didn't. And that's
okay.
It goes back to what you were saying about the Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, I mean, I think again we needed. I think what is missing is the scene where we see that transition. Because if we see Millie going like, oh my god, like these girls are telling me to do all these things, and I should be listening to them because I'm not a model. I mean, they're a model, and I should be listening to them. Like if we saw that scene, which we didn't, I think we would be talking about a different problem, because it really is like we never saw the transition from Millie to drug Millie, and it feels off because we never saw how she got there in the first place.
Used a character. They needed a storyline, and hers fit the best. Somebody in the writers' room probably said,
I mean,
"What about Millie?" And it was like, "Yeah, sure, that works great." And because of the time constraints and all the other storylines that were happening and the way that those had to
Yeah.
intersect, I think
We
they
needed
just
a
sped it all
scene.
up.
I think we
I
just
just wish
needed
that
like
when
one
they
scene.
first introduced Millie, yeah, it's hindsight's 2020. I wish they had known
Yeah.
when they brought Millie on the show that this is where they were going,
Yeah.
so that something could have been set up a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
earlier.
I mean,
Yeah.
but
just
then,
one,
you know,
again.
it
I
is
think
what it
like
is.
one scene would have
Yeah,
changed
plant a couple
everything.
seeds. Paul, one thing I noticed that I wanted to ask you about was there's a scene when Millie is in Alex's hotel room, rifling through her closet, and what I found really interesting was it looked like her makeup was done the same way that Alex's was when she kind of arrived in Tree Hill. Like it was very dark above the eye. Her hairstyle kind of reminded me
Well,
of
she's trying to
Alex's.
become Alex.
And I was curious if there was there a note anywhere in there of sort of, because also in that same scene, I think Alex is wearing like a cute plaid outfit. It's not
it's
risque.
like they switched roles.
That's what I was wondering. And so I kind of questioned, are we doing a subtle Freaky Friday here? Is that what's happening?
Was it Single White Female? What is the one where the girl takes up her roommate's identity?
Oh yeah, that is.
You know what it was?
But was that intentional?
I'll be honest with you, I actually don't remember. This was how many years ago was this?
6, Paul. It's only been 6.
I should know, and I've failed the podcast, and I think I should be booted. Since I can't actually remember that. I do remember,
I'm sure it was
you did
intentional.
in the production meetings and stuff. That seems like something that would have come up.
but I know that Lisa was such a gamer that she would have gone for it. I mean, I was very
Yeah.
proud of her, and I think that she where she came from, right? You know how she was, what her job was before working on our show. Do you guys know?
Tell the fans for people who don't know.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't.
I think she was Snow White in Disney World.
And Jasmine and Belle.
Perfect.
She was a Disney World girl.
Dude, we got to have Ron because I need to know a lot about that.
I know. I want to talk to Lisa.
It's so perfect.
Joey, you could have done that. You could still do that.
I could still do that. This is my plan. I'm just going to retire and go to Disney World and be like, guys, just put me in a princess dress. Let me hug little kids. That's all I want to do.
Okay, you don't have to say it like that, but okay.
Please.
Yeah, no, I was very, very thrilled with her work ethic and her willingness, and you guys know there's a lot of, I try to make it safe, and there's a lot of
I would like to see a movie with
dig deeper
Lisa
and stuff like
and
that,
Alex.
and she was so
Lisa
game.
and Jenna.
So although I don't remember
feel
the
like that would
makeup
be a good
question, which I think
duo
is
to
really
do.
interesting, and
A good
there's something in
reunion.
my head that there was something about that, but I just can't be 100% certain. But
Like
I was
the
really
Millie
proud
and
of her
Alex
work.
spinoff.
I think there was
She
a lot
killed it.
intentional about the makeup because I noticed under the darkness under her eyes that was happening. So whether that was something that y'all talked about in the production meeting or just
The
something
darkness,
that
you think was something about that, yes. I just don't
Yeah.
remember it was to match Alex's look.
yeah, but she did great.
Something I noticed earlier was there's a scene with Antoine and Allison Munn.
Lauren.
Oh, Miss Lauren. So it's the scene where he wakes up and he rolls over to check his phone, and she says, "Antoine, what are you doing?" And this was the first time I had ever heard his character's actual name.
Oh.
I didn't know they shared a namesake, and so I gasped, going, "No freaking way! They accidentally let his real name slip through the final cut." And then realized, no, dum-dum, they just probably named the character Antoine.
Yeah, Antoine Taylor. Not Antoine Tanner, but pretty close.
Antoine Taylor. Wow, I love that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I wanted to see more of them. That was such a
Like
strange
Miley
kind of
Cyrus instead of
random.
Miley
I mean,
Stewart.
hopefully we'll get to see more of that storyline develop. It seemed so bizarre that it was interjected.
You do that a lot.
It didn't go anywhere. Like nothing. I mean, I guess he was waiting for a phone call, and then he gets the information. So it resolved. But I don't know. I'm curious as to where that's going.
It's clear that
I
they're
wasn't sure
prepping
what's
for
happening with that. Although
skills to leave the
it
show.
did make me really want to reinvigorate this idea of stopping by friends' places or where they are just to ask a random question instead of texting people. I love this. He's got his phone. He could easily just call him, but he goes to the river court. Man, why don't I do that more often? Just swing by my friends' houses and be like, "Hey, I forgot to tell you, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'll see you later." It's so fun.
Oh, I assumed that Julian had called him and they planned to meet at the river court. Is that not how it went down?
They probably did, but like for what? They had 3 lines, and then Julian's like, "I gotta go. This chick is texting me." Like, I don't know. It seemed so strange.
Let's do it. Poppins. Let's bring him back, people.
Antoine is so well liked. I remember even before One Tree Hill, 2003, when the show started. Before that, in the late 90s and early 2000s, we played in the NBA Entertainment League together with James, who I knew before the show, playing in that league.
Oh, that's right.
That's so funny.
We all knew each other from that. And, I was on a team with Leo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire and all these actors, Kevin Connolly. And James was on an opposing team and Antoine was on another team. And we're all like mortal enemies playing against each other.
That's funny.
And then we got here and it was just like, oh man, we
We're
hated
mortal
you.
enemies
we hated
again.
you. Because we all played basketball together when we first got to, and I was much older, but it was so great that we knew each other,
Yeah,
from a
that's
basketball
good.
life, and it really helped a lot, I think, in our
Helps build that
time together,
chemistry
working together, because we had
for
that
that
shorthand, like you
relationship.
guys say.
Was that E-League? Because I've heard of that before, this entertainment league. Was it like Raya, where you have to have someone vouch for you to get in, or do you have to be vetted
Raya.
before you can join it?
That's brilliant.
Man, train, tree. No, it wasn't a mental test either. Let's see. No, there was, I think you had to be of some entertainment value to be part of the teams. But
Makes
you could also be
sense.
an agent or a manager or a
Okay.
lawyer or something. You had to be in the entertainment industry. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of agent, I want to go back to this. What's your perspective on this, Robert? Do you think that Clay should have locked up the deal, or do you think that he did the right thing by holding out and
He
que
should have
sera,
left
sera?
him the deal.
I think Clay took his eye off the ball.
I mean, it's very clear because, like, you can always ask for an extension of a contract later, but Nathan's one thing was not even the paycheck. It was get me on this team, get my contract renewed. And if Clay had just done that, even with a 2-year deal, you can then, like, within the first season, you can probably negotiate a contract extension, or even in the second season we can discuss, or even the second year we can discuss, okay, now let's get my guy like a new contract. Like, he's proven to you that he's very valuable. Let's keep him and let's get him like 4 years.
I think he had good intentions, but I think you gotta know
When to
that
give
there's
up.
another thing going on, and it's such a bad
Because
look.
there's always
to
somebody
take your
else. There's
eye
always
off the
somebody
ball
else
at a
going
time
for
when
that
you
spot.
have the
And
one person he's asked you not to spend time with over, and it's so it was so painful. And then they kissed like all of a day ago, and she already comes in like, babe, do you have that beer for me?
Babe.
I was just like, oh, this is not. Because, like I said, I think he's a good agent in that he was fighting for more because he believes in him. But I think you gotta be keeping your finger on the pulse of everything going on right there.
yeah.
Did you ask her to not say babe? Did you say just strike the babe part?
I mean, to me, it was a little heavy-handed. I think my note was, first of all, it's pretty soon for pet names. Because if it's sort of like the Millie thing. It's like they've been kissing. They've been more than friends for 16 hours, and we're already dropping babes on each other.
Babe. So
We gotta speed it
casual.
up because we need to get
You were
to
the Jerry Maguire,
the
right?
last
That's
the,
what you were
to the
fashioned
season
after?
finale.
Yeah, the wounded Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. Nathan ran that scene though, man. I mean, I loved seeing him just plow in and be. It broke my heart. Like after
Yeah.
everything that he just went through
my
with
gosh.
Renee.
Yeah, and
all
now
the-
there's this
all the anxiety about
another
losing
shoe
his
dropping,
contract with the
another
Bobcats, and that
thing to
it was
worry
all
about.
going to go away, and we were on the edge of our seats,
So, like, it
and we finally
keeps
get this
going
big win,
wrong.
and Dan saves the day with Renee, and all of it just is all working out, and then the rug just gets ripped out from underneath us.
I mean, there's
Because
always
Clay
another
is
thing.
Doing what he should be doing. He's healing. He's moving on. He's like, good things are happening in his life.
And he's
And
also
Quinn
fucking
is
up.
getting, this moment of joy and peace in her life after,
It just
how
doesn't-
difficult her
it
marriage
doesn't
has
work
been. And
together.
for everybody to finally be in a great place and have this happen, it's so much like real life.
Okay.
And what's great about it is it's a wonderful conflict because you can understand both parties' point of view.
Yeah.
Like they didn't make it
Yeah.
easy to choose who was right.
And they
Nathan
didn't
was
necessarily
completely in
do
the right
anything
to be
wrong.
livid.
I mean, neither of them
Clay
really
was
did
also
anything
in the
wrong.
right to be fighting for what he believed Nathan's value was. So like
Yeah.
I like that they muddied the water.
I
It
mean,
wasn't some
like,
egregious error.
Neither
Yeah.
of them
You
did
know,
something
but-
wrong. They just maybe had an oversight on the situation.
Yeah, it was great seeing Nathan come down hard, which also it's funny because it sort of even more lends to Dan drowning Clay. Because can you imagine the effort he went to get Renee to go through that
Right.
whole ruse? He gambles his ass off. It pays off. He saves the day,
What is
and
up
then
with
this
that?
kid blows his son's deal.
Oh
like Clay. So in
You're
a way,
right.
tough love actually
Yeah.
really makes sense for that scene.
Yes. Okay, I'm glad you said that. It all came full circle to me now. I get it.
It's nice to be around big brains, isn't it, Joy?
How did you guys
Why
feel
is-
about? I don't mean as a director.
I'm sorry.
doing this,
Why
but
is Joy like
there's a lot of
see-through?
in this episode of
What is going on?
Quinn telling
I think it's just a
Nathan
light,
and
but it
Haley
looks like she's
that they
see-through.
need to be more understanding towards Clay, and it creates this really uncomfortable dynamic, which eventually Nathan calls out with going, "Do you like living in my house for free?"
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's also she has a point. You know, but it's that awkward thing of like,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know
they
if
both
this
have
is
a point.
the right time.
No, she's pushing way
She
too
has a
hard. And this
Right.
is
But
yeah, this is a great example of someone who feels out of control and they are looking for control somewhere to
Yeah.
make themselves feel better about needing to about like I can solve something. At least I
Yeah.
can do something.
Mhm.
And we've all done it. We have people in our lives who do it. It's I think a super human thing to do. But yeah, I don't
there
like
is a
it.
line.
I don't like it.
It's you gotta be able to read the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
and when,
it's
when
not her
like
place.
literally 2 hours after he found out he lost a job is not the time to be going, let's turn that other cheek.
Also, like Haley's her sister. Nathan's been her brother-in-law for however many years they've been married now. Is it 5, 6 years now? Maybe 10? I don't know.
Mhm.
But sorry, fans, for all of you who are mad at me for not knowing. I don't know how long they've been married. But yeah, and Quinn just started making out with this dude. Like, why would she immediately take his
Yeah, I think
side
it's
and
been
be like
a little
against
over
her
5
family?
years.
But that is also
'Cause
it's a
of the time
childish
jump.
thing to do because you know your family's safe and what are they gonna leave? What are they gonna leave you?
Which is
Like, it's
crazy.
your family.
They're so
she
young,
can
but
sort
it's
of
been
push
5 years
buttons
since they've been
and
married.
be on Clay's side because that's what she needs to do. She needs to feel like she's defending someone, a part of something, that she belongs somewhere because she's kind of floating around.
I mean,
in
she
life
feels
right now.
like a little lost because she's
It's so
left
I think
David
it
and
checks with
everything.
Quinn's personality. It checks out.
Mhm.
It makes sense with where she's at in her life.
She wants to be
But
there.
it was
for
too
Clay.
heavy-handed. I think I would have
Yeah.
preferred much more of like a, hey, listen, can we talk? These are my feelings. I think maybe you're emotional and you're overlooking some things. But the fact that we were in a bedroom, I had a visceral memory of being in that bedroom filming that scene with Chantel. Paul, I feel like we did it like 12 times or something. Like do you remember that too? The master took us so long.
So long. Exactly. It's probably because I over blocked the scene or let you guys just do whatever you want and then had to cover it from 9 different angles. I don't remember.
I think it was the energy was slow.
Yeah.
I think it was actually, we may have been trying to do what I just said, which was to slow down and have more of a reasonable conversation. And
It was just too slow.
you knew that it needed the energy and that it's okay for characters to be flawed. Like we just
I think
have to
we
fight.
rehearsed a lot before we shot too.
Yes.
I remember correctly.
Yes.
Mm.
Did you find
That's
that
right.
we rehearsed much on that show before we shot? I don't think we did usually.
No, we didn't do a lot of rehearsal, but with that scene,
That scene we did,
Yeah, you need to
I
know
remember
the
one
direction that
scene
you're
we
going
rehearsed
in.
for a long time, and then we changed it after we rehearsed it a bunch of times. We decided
Yes.
it wasn't working. Do you know what scene it was?
I thought it was that one.
And Quinn and your other sister,
Lindsay.
Lindsay, by the pool.
Oh.
That was a different episode, but we had to rehearse that forever. Something wasn't clicking immediately. I think we were going so far so fast that it wasn't like feeling organic. And
Yes.
Yeah.
we kept rehearsing, trying to figure it out. I don't
Makes
know if you remember
sense.
this scene.
I do. I remember that.
Yeah.
Going back to just pre this bit when Clay gets fired in front of your whole family, in front of Nathan and Haley.
I
and
love that
Joe.
moment.
What was funny though was the super dramatic. He does like the Charlie Brown walk out of the house and he stops and he picks up a picture of all of them
And he
then
puts
his
it
face
down.
on the counter.
It's so dramatic.
I thought, oh,
So
that's so
extra.
funny. That's such
That
like
was
a
written in the script. That
Of
was
course it was.
it was.
Listen, I'm like you, Paul.
Don't put that on me.
My North Star is like, let's keep it honest. My North Star is always, how can this be as subtle and grounded and honest as possible? There is no way
Yes.
between the two of us that we thought, that's a killer idea. That was 100% in the script.
A photo that's never been seen before on the countertop.
Never.
On a part of the countertop where you never would put pictures anyway. Well, in my house I wouldn't. No, it was absurd.
The last thing you'd be doing in that moment is spending any extra seconds in that house.
That's
Could
right.
you imagine that awkward tension in the room and you stop to look at a photo? And then there's this other funny beat though where Nathan asks Haley, hey, like he's questioning it. He goes, I don't know. Do you think I made the right decision firing Clay? And you take a beat and you go, I don't know. You know, on one hand, he's Clay. You guys have been friends for over a year. First of all, it's so funny that they wanted to write that in to like tell the audience the timetable, but also that is not enough time to make that counter argument. A year.
A year.
Your new friends.
Sounds like a network note to me.
1 year.
It does. It sounds like
Yeah.
they need to put that in.
Completely.
You know what I mean?
Because it works if you drop the end of it and it's just, I don't know, on one hand, he's Clay. Boom. That's enough. The
Yeah.
audience is going to fill in the rest on their own. You don't need to tell them it's been 372 days of friendship. You know, it's like,
No, yeah, nobody cares.
that's weird.
Yeah, I also thought it was really strange that he got fired in front of everybody. Like he shows up at the house and like, why couldn't they have just said?
Like,
feels like
it felt like they were trying to say, like, it's Lucas. You know, you guys have been brothers. Like, you know, you're, but it's not. But he's not that.
professional for them to say, let's talk about this at the office, but they're just gonna fire you right there on the spot.
So they
It's
don't.
like a
So
pissing
they.
con-
I feels like they don't want to do severance or anything like that. They just want to like. Okay, we're done here.
Test, which
It
maybe
does.
maybe that's
They
realistic.
don't want
That's
anything
what it
written
is, I
down or
guess.
anything.
Well, and the weird thing too is that Clay comes in hot at them first. Clay comes in
Right.
and goes, Nathan, this is BS. They're gonna promise you the moon and underdeliver. He's still their employee at that point.
Yes.
So it's odd because if you're a team player, even though you lose the client, you want the agency to keep it. So he's already on some loner stuff, you know, when he comes in the room.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it was just sort of a pissing match of them going, cool, pack your shit.
Yeah. Bye. And then they give the girl, the one random girl, his assistant or whoever, who gets one shot, and she's like, "Sorry, Clay, we've never
Yeah.
seen her before, and we never see her again."
Or the one male agent, they're like, huh, like Kevin, and I go, shut up, Kevin. There's just a shot of him going, shaking his head. Also, I didn't realize it. I think it's an Easter egg. Do you realize Dan Scott is the creator of Clay's agency's name?
No.
In that scene of the
Yeah,
drowning,
it's intentional.
you talk about fortitude.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who says the word
You used the
fortitude,
word
and I
5
went,
Yes.
times. Yeah, I remember.
and I
It
thought,
comes from
oh
it.
my gosh, how funny! I never remembered that the seed was planted by Dan.
Wait a second. I thought Clay worked for Fortitude.
No, that's the agency I create. Yeah, Clay
yeah.
starts up Fortitude.
You're about to create Fortitude.
Yes, correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's juicy.
So the drowning, full circle on this
Nah.
episode of Drama
Clay
Queens,
really
is that
got-
the drowning
Clay
means,
really got.
and the change did happen. And all the things we
Yeah.
asked at the beginning of this episode were, you know, does it really affect you? Did it change you? Well,
Yep.
it did. It
Yeah.
started a whole new company, a whole new direction, and maybe a more commitment to his client's position based on that situation.
Yeah.
Dan Scott, so complicated, such a villain and changing people's lives at the same time.
I think what we're saying on a larger scale, everyone, is if you are in some sort of rut in your life,
Just get
have
drowned.
a friend give you a light drowning. You know, shake things up a bit. It's gonna work out.
Just drown him. This is so long.
Brooke and Victoria, I just want to make sure we
Are we
touch
still
on
going
them
2x
because the
speed?
storyline of Brooke,
yeah.
Feels like we're not.
finding out that she can't have children, hearing that from the doctor is so
Huge.
Maybe they're just
heartbreaking.
talking so slow.
Sophia did such a beautiful job in this
Mhm.
scene. She
Beautiful.
always shows up when there's just, especially with the real raw emotion. I mean, it broke my heart. She really, that's heartbreaking for that character. And the fact that she had Victoria come into town and Victoria says, "You called me." And Brooke says, "No, I didn't." She goes, "Well, a midnight call with no message is a call." And Victoria shows up, and we start to see the beginnings of Brooke and Victoria as partners instead of two people who just hate each other
Equals,
and have no idea how to function with each other.
Sort of.
And it was really exciting to see that.
Well, that may be my favorite scene in the episode, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought they
the
were
one-on-one.
both, sublime.
Are we gonna
the
talk
Brooke and
about
Julian scene when she confesses to him that she can't have kids? Yeah.
Dude, they were so good in that scene. I'm glad that we didn't wrap the episode without talking about that. That scene was so well done. It was so
I was
gentle
gonna be like, wait,
and honest.
Aren't we missing something
sweet.
that we're talking to talk about?
I thought they both crushed it.
And groundbreaking too for the show. I don't think we had anybody have that problem for Montreal until then.
Yeah.
We needed to get that.
It felt so real that it seemed to
Why
me
does it feel like this is not 2XP? Like, what happened?
Like they both were so dropped in. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't remember if you remember, but it just seems so simple and clean.
On a lighter note, Victoria at Trick telling Grubbs after he correctly predicts her exact drink, "I'm looking for a lover and you just made the list," was probably the line of the episode for me.
So great. So great. Victoria being toasty at Clothes Over Bros and leaning on all the clothing racks as she's talking is such a great example of acting drunk by acting sober. And then she goes to the bar, and I love this barstool wrap up that we did too, by the way. It's just all the characters kind of having their own little moment. But then, her sitting and talking with Grubbs for one more martini was pretty great.
Yeah, and her dropping the dime on Alex and Millie, drinking and driving, and Twist, Millie's driving.
Setting it all up.
And Mouth not going to jail to pick her up. Good for you, Mouth.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And good for Brooke. Brooke didn't do it either.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Listen, $500,000 when you've done one job? Come on.
A little much.
Sounds like you need a new agent.
Sounds like you need a new agent and a healthy slice of reality pie. All right, Suzanne asks, how has your experience working on this show or in the industry impacted your life outside of work? Has it changed how you approach personal relationships or other aspects of your life? Paul?
It's too big of an answer. It's too much. I'll do my best to make it pithy. Write that down.
How about One Tree Hill? Let's not say the industry. Let's just say this job.
I have my second family because of it. I have my lifelong friends because of it. I have this beautiful people I can go to with all those years we spent together. I sometimes wish we had kept together more, but that's the greatest gift from it. The fans have never had any fans from any other show I've ever done, and I've been on a few like this. And how's it approach my personal relationships? It's complicated because it's part of now. I know this sounds maybe there's a little hubris
We'll
here,
see him as a villain.
the show had impact more than I ever thought when we were shooting it. 20 years later, I'm still approaching on airplanes and in restaurants and stuff like that, and it's a huge. And I go, oh, that's right, I was on a TV show because I forget why you're coming up to me. And it's sweet. It's very sweet. It's all how you take it. I had one girl one time, long time ago, who was really irritated that I was being approached all the time. And I said, what bothers you about this? She goes, well, they don't know you. And I said, no, they do.
To them, they do.
And you should be good to your fans. You should be. They're the reason we're here. It's silly. That's a little light answer, but I'm gonna leave it.
No, it's kind of the same one that I was going to have. I don't. I mean, there's a huge answer. I think any profession has a massive effect on your personal life. And
you don't realize
hard
that
can be the
people
hours.
know
I mean,
who
I've definitely
you
had.
are, or at least
I mean, for instance, with this show, I think it's the same thing. Like Paul was saying, you never quite know when I'm making a new friend. I don't know if they've seen the show or not, and sometimes that can be awkward, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the industry in general has affected my life in terms of.
You don't know whether or
time,
not to come off with
a lot of people
with
don't
a
have our
big
schedule,
ego
and
or not.
I have lost friendships because there are people who just can't understand the time constraint.
Because
And
they've
they
never
can't
seen the
understand
show.
the demand that's put on us, and it's like
It feels
I've called
like
you. Where have you been the last 4 weeks?
ego.
And I'm like, I'm
But
so
they
sorry.
have
I was
seen the
filming
show.
14 hours a
It
day.
feels
I just.
like
We'll
you're
carry it in a
gonna
castle in a
be,
beautiful dress.
But yeah, I usually don't say that. Wear your glasses a little bit too tight. But like you try. But not everyone is cut out for being in a relationship for someone who's in this industry too, because it's the circus, and you can't be as consistent as what some people need.
Yeah.
So you find different ways of connecting with people, and that's okay. But that's been a hard lesson to learn. But I've been given so many gifts, and so I've learned so much as an artist and as a human just from. It's too big of an answer. I've learned so much, and I love it. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, friends, definitely. Like when we do these, like the show and we do conventions, it's fun for me because it's like I really get to see this group of people I like, and we have this incredible shared experience. So I'm very grateful for that. And to be honest with you, this show helped me get to a place where I finally found my way to therapy.
Really?
Yeah, because it's like I came on and it was just weird, right? Because everyone in the town knew knew who we were. So there was a lot of like isolating. I was already kind of going through a tough time, so I was just sort of withdrawn. Like I was hanging out in my apartment, and like my mental health wasn't great. And finally, it was like I hit a point where I was just like, something has to change. And it's like that was the first time I got introduced to my very first therapist halfway through One Tree Hill, or about 2/3 of the way through. And that began. It was sort of like the ending of that chapter of my life and the beginning of this journey of like actually figuring out who the hell I am and what I want to do, what makes me happy. So I'm incredibly grateful. Like I said on the show, like it was a tough experience for me personally, but I'm immensely grateful for it.
You touched on something really interesting that I think a lot of people who don't know anything about the entertainment industry, they look at lives of actors who are working and they think, oh, it's so glamorous. Yeah, they work hard, blah, blah, blah. But look at all, they get to go to all the parties and they get to, get reservations wherever they want. But the isolation is so real because especially depending on your level of success, not knowing who you can trust, not knowing if someone's talking to you and being nice to you because they're a nice person and you're having a genuine, lovely interaction, or if somebody's just blowing smoke up your ass because you're a celebrity. There's also just having people know things about your life. You're trying to be a private person, just have your own life and people following you around and gossiping about you. It's a small town. So you say something, you look at somebody sideways, you're having a bad day. Boy, does that get spread around. And that's really hard. It just makes you want to go into a shell and like everybody just leave me alone. I just want to hide. And then you get isolated and then you don't have anybody to talk to. it's hard.
You get sharing an opinion about anything important.
Yeah, and it's one thing, like if you're shooting in New York, no one in New York cares. They see
Right.
bigger and better all the time on the
Yeah.
sidewalk. But in Wilmington, literally every single person knew who we were.
Yeah.
And what that did is, because I'm like Paul, if someone wants to say, like, come to me and say, hey, I love this thing you did. Like, I want to take a moment to hear that, validate it, tell them thank you, maybe snap a picture. Like, let's have a little
wonderful.
moment, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is when you're having a hard day, when you're court low, and you just don't have it in you to do that, and you know when you leave your door, that's all you're gonna get. You know, going for coffee, sitting down for breakfast. It's just easier to go. I'm just gonna stay here by myself and I'll order something. You know, so there was just, like I said, I just isolated a lot. But yeah, but like
Just
also
keep
the
to
beginning, going like, oh
yourself.
cool,
Keep
I think I
your
know
head
who I am,
down.
but let's find out.
Tell us about your book tour real quick.
Me? Oh yeah, I'm going on a book tour. You're so sweet, Paul. Yeah, my book tour for my memoir, Dinner for Vampires, is coming out. We are on a book tour on the week that it goes out, October 21st.
Okay.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, the story is really about my own mess. I mean, One Tree Hill is the setting, it's a backdrop, but the story is about my own huge mistakes I made in my own life. But hopefully it'll make people feel like they're not so alone and isolated.
Okay, we're almost done.
Could have used that book about 20 years ago, Joy.
Can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, let's spin a wheel. Paul, when it lands, would you mind telling the listeners what it is? Oh, perfect. Read it, Paul.
The winner of the spinny wheel, most likely to sleepwalk.
I'm just going to jump right in and say Clay. And for those who
Yes.
know, you know.
I agree. Oh, yeah. Play for sure.
Yeah.
And, I feel like do you sleepwalk? You seem like a sleepwalker.
I have, but I'm a sleep talker.
Ooh, that's juicy.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm sure it's revealed.
Have
fun for your
full-on
girlfriend.
conversation.
Paul Johansson, never not talking.
That's my novel coming out
There
November.
it is. Pre-order. All right, next week we have season 7, episode 11. 7-11. You know I love you. Don't you?
Don't you?
Paul, you are lovely.
Hmm.
An utter delight, as per usual, my friend.
Grateful to
Yes.
be part of this. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Love you. It's great to see you. We'll talk to you soon.
I know we're approaching some heavy episodes. I'm curious as to what they will say about the next episode. Especially regarding a couple of scenes that I know are in there. But if you don't know, I've been basically in between these like drama queen episodes. I've been rewatching the show. Like I've been watching the next episode. So just kind of to refresh my brain. I mean, I don't even really need that. I have the show pretty much like memorized from here. But it's good to kind of like have a little refresher just to make sure that I'm having the right episode in mind. And 7-11 is a little bit I don't know. It's something else, I think. I like this arc of the show. I think that there are some things that could be done better. But we'll kind of see how this kind of unfolds. We have the very emotional classic scene of you told her the truth and you lied to me, which be curious as to what Sophia has to say about that. And I'm surprised they didn't have Sophia for this one, but I get that they wanted director Paul Johansson. Hopefully Sophia is back for the next episode because it'll be interesting to hear her insight on kind of going there and also her opinion on why, you know, I know Brooke is kind of in an emotional state and it's difficult to deal with, but it'll be interesting to kind of hear what they have to say about it. Until next time, see you later, guys. Bye. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.